right, let's get to another big story breakdown on digital assets. We're focusing strong here today. The cryptocurrency industry is in the struggle of the crypto winter. Tokens like Bitcoin and Ether have lost 3/4 of their value, while major crypto lending and investing firms have collapsed into bankruptcy. Blockchain compliance companies see the need for bridging the gap between crypto and TradFi and have been pushing hard on this. Joining us today to give us more insight here is Paul Dowding, co-founder and head of design at L4S Corporation. Glad to have you on the show this morning, Paul. What is the status of TradFi embracing kind of the crypto and DeFi worlds in this moment in particular?
Okay, that's interesting. There's really sort of two sides to this. There's a sort of scope and scale of the TradFi world, and then you've got the innovation within the DeFi world, and they're both sort of looking at each other. There's, latency and inefficiencies in the traditional world, but there are some concerns around legal issues and even interoperability with the DeFi world. A recent headline had JP Morgan and a group of dipping their toe in the water, where they did one FX transaction and I believe one government bond transaction, but within the reporting they found a raft of issues, including many legal issues. And it revolves around the open source public blockchains, the published vulnerable smart contracts, the lack of KYC or even knowing your counterparty, and the lack of recourse when things go wrong, because these are open source public and it's sort of buyer beware. And lastly, the current blockchains are really time-stamped transfers of ownership. So there's no double entry accounting and proper reconciliation. So it's very hard to sort of audit these records. So the headline should really see, traditional banks entering DeFi, but finding it's really not ready for prime time.
I like that last part there, because I think about traditional markets, right? And when you see markets pull back, or what we're in right now, a bear market, you see savvy investors, you see TradFi kind of sifting through the rubble, trying to find value on sale. And I would imagine that would immediately apply here in the crypto space. But to your point, it is so much harder to find that value with accounting differentials and just so many other kind of learning curves in the way of TradFi probably being able to sort through this and see if they have an opportunity here. I imagine that changes as time goes on, as we kind of evolve in this space, and certainly however long this crypto winter continues to last. But if I may then, what is the way for moving forward for TradFi and crypto or DeFi to benefit from each other?
Well, that's actually, I was going to say, although they've got their problems, they're really trying to bridge to each other's world. The DeFi looking at the scope and scale, and the TradFi looking at the innovation speed. I think when you look at both worlds, the DeFi and blockchain worlds have shown us how to do peer-to-peer or B2B transactions at greater speeds and greater efficiency, but the problem is the legal issues. When we looked at it from our side, from L4S Core and our platform Tapestry X, we looked at sort of saying, how do you meet the requirements of TradFi with this new technology? Yeah. And the interesting thing about blockchain is that the perfect use cases should be a crypto exchange or a crypto fund, yet they still use classic general ledgers. So when we looked at it, we were sort of saying, okay, well, can we get synchronization without consensus mining or independent validators? Because that's where the scalability, capacity issues are. Yeah. You've got latency and also vulnerabilities to third-party risk. And so rather than disintermediating the banks or brokers, you disintermediate the central authorities. You have the B2B transactions at high speed, real time, but with double entry accounting inside the hash link record. Now you can actually produce accounting at the front end. If you look at traditional finance, you agree and settle and record transactions, but they reconcile and account for them much later. This is part of the problem. Actually, FTX is history repeating itself. They use classic accounting, but very poorly and very lack of controls. Single bets. That's like, go on.
No. Sorry, I only have like 30 seconds here, and I think your points are really valid. I want to ask you really quickly before we go, though. When you look at the FTX and other high-profile collapses, I think Luna, Celsius, BlockFi, I mean, honestly, we can continue going. How do you think that's affecting adoption moving forward? Is it just simply a matter of extending the timeline, or is there true kind of longer-term hesitation?
No, I think you have to don't risk tainting everything with a broad brush. Look at every use case and some of the technologies individually. That's what we did with our analysis and our solution. I've also done work with the not-for-profit, the Government Blockchain Association, to develop a blockchain maturity model, and particularly banking and finance use cases, so that we can independently and objectively assess these things. Because I think there's a danger of tainting them with a broad brush. But you've got to really seriously look at how you can bring the controls of accounting to the front door, and then you can identify or even prevent some of these errors that happen, because it was really the accounting and controls that left FTX down outside of the risk of the underlying crypto or DeFi investments.
Paul, really appreciate your time and insight. Paul Dowding, co-founder and head of design at L4S Corporation.